Have a little one's birthday coming up? Fat Brain Toys has unique, age-appropriate gifts that really stand out. For over 21 years, this family-run business from Omaha, Nebraska has been creating toys that entertain and educate. They offer child-driven play experiences that keep both the mind and the body active, with options to shop by age or to use their gift bot for recommendations. Like the Plip Kit, perfect for the young builder, architect, or maker who can use the flexible pieces to create cool patterns and designs. Or my personal favorite, Mr. Bendy, a bendable figure with posable arms, legs, eyes, and wax bendy sticks that offer a fun way for kids to explore social and emotional learning. These durable, screen-free toys promote open-ended play, perfect for creative, differently wired kids. I also love the story of how Fat Brain Toys started. Mark Carson built the company after his 10-year-old son Adam couldn't find magnetic building toys online, and the rest, as they say, is history. Today, their website even features a resource center to help parents of neurodivergent and disabled kids find the best toys for their needs. Go to www.fatbraintoys.com/tilt to get 10% off all the items in the Tilt collection when you use the code TILT at checkout. And find out for yourself why Fat Brain Toys is a smarter way to play. I'm Debbie Reber, and welcome to Tilt Parenting, a podcast featuring interviews and conversations aimed at inspiring, informing, and supporting parents raising differently wired kids. I get a lot of questions from listeners looking for help navigating complex situations with their kids. So in this new mini episode format, I'll be answering listener questions, sometimes all on my own, sometimes with one of the parent coaches from the Differently Wired Club, and sometimes with an author or expert who's become a trusted resource. Think of these bite-sized, short and sweet parent-leaning episodes as a quick check-in. One question, one answer, featuring strategies, tips, or reframes that can support you in your parenting world. To submit a question for a parent-lean-in episode, just go to tiltparenting.com/lean-in. That's tiltparenting.com/LEANIN. All right, here's today's episode. Hey everybody, today I am joined by parent coach Margaret Webb for a Parent Lean-In episode. And if you've listened to this show for a while, you've definitely heard me talk about Margaret. She's a dear friend. She was my very first parenting coach. She's the lead parent coach in my Differently Wired Club, where she provides a ton of support for that community. She's also the author of a phenomenal book, A Hero's Journey in Parenting, Parenting the Child You Didn't Expect When You Were Expecting. That is a book any parent on this journey should read. So welcome, Margaret. Thank you so much for being here today.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, we always have fun doing this. So me too. And today we're going to tackle a really good question. I'm pretty confident some aspects of this will resonate with many listeners. So the question is, how to help a kid who has low self-esteem? He also says that he's used to being alone at recess and denies any impact. I don't know how to handle this. I don't pressure him, but I wonder if he is suffering as a result. And I have a little context for this question. This is an 8-year-old who's going to school, who's diagnosed as autistic. So let's take our quick break now so that when we get back, we can just kind of answer and provide all of our insights. So we'll be right back. One of the most frequent topics in the Tilt parenting community is how to navigate our kids' education and school, because we all want to set our kids up for creating a life they love. And that means making sure they're receiving the best education. And by best, I mean one that's right for them and their unique needs. I highly recommend checking out K-12 Powered Schools. K-12 Powered Schools can help your child start reaching their full potential in life now with online education options tailored to their unique needs, interests, and schedules. And there's still time to get started this year. K-12 Powered Schools are tuition-free, online accredited public schools for kindergarten through 12th grade. And this is not your typical homeschooling where parents are responsible for teaching their children. K-12 Powered Schools have state-certified teachers trained in online education and features an online portal that gives parents daily insights into curriculum and performance. And K-12's hands-on innovative technology makes learning interactive and engaging, helping your child gain skills, experience, and certifications all before graduating high school, all while giving you the support you need to get them there. K-12 has online education options for every type of learner, and it could be the right fit for your child too. Help your child gain the skills they need to thrive in the future with K-12. There's still time to get started for the fall. Go to k12.com/tilt today to learn more and find a tuition-free K-12 powered school near you. That's the letter K, the number 12.com/tilt. K12.com/tilt. As I looked at the calendar the other day, it hit me. This September marks 5 years since I started the Differently Wired Club, a half decade of supporting and connecting with an incredible community of parents raising neurodivergent kids. I honestly don't know how to convey just how special this community is. Witnessing families go from burnout to a place of emotional and mental strength has been nothing short of amazing. I love this community. And I know that when a parent commits to the paradigm shifting work we do, it transforms lives, and it can transform yours too. To celebrate 5 years of the club, I'm doing something I've never done before. When you join between now and September 10th, you'll get a personal 20-minute one-on-one Zoom call with me where we will explore your specific needs and make sure you're set up to thrive in the club. That's, of course, on top of everything else that the club entails. 7 live calls each month, including 4 hosted by me. Expert masterclasses, author visits. This month, we are reading Self-Reg with Stuart Schenker, and a supportive community of other parents raising complex kids like yours who are ready to share resources, offer support, and remind you that you are not alone. If you've been waiting for a sign to join the Differently Wired Club, this is it. Learn more at tiltparenting.com/club. That's tiltparenting.com/club. As summer winds down and I kick off a new podcast production season, that means I'm spending many hours prepping for and interviewing guests. I'm finding that the time to shop for and prepare well-balanced meals is slipping through my fingers. That's exactly why I'm so thankful for HelloFresh. HelloFresh can help you save time this fall by making dinner easier and faster than ever. Skip the meal planning and those last-minute grocery store runs with easy-to-follow recipes and pre-portioned ingredients delivered fresh to your door. Just choose your delivery day, open your box, and start cooking. Or, in my case, get your husband to start cooking. HelloFresh also has something for everyone in the family. Their line of kid-friendly options means even the pickiest of eaters will be part of the Clean Plate Club this back-to-school season. And Green Chef, another sponsor of the show, is now owned by HelloFresh. And I love switching between the brands to enjoy an even wider selection of meal plans. And now my listeners can enjoy both brands at a discount with me. And for a limited time, kids eat free. Go to HelloFresh.com/tiltkids to unlock this exclusive offer. 1 free kids meal per box for 2 months while your subscription is active. That's free kids meals just by going to HelloFresh.com/tiltkids. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. Okay, so again, we are going to be talking about how to help an autistic child, an 8-year-old who has low self-esteem. The child says that he's used to being alone and says it doesn't really bother him, and the parent doesn't know how to handle this, and she doesn't want to pressure him, but is wondering if he's suffering as a result. So, Margaret, I'm going to ask you to kick us off today.
I would love to. I taught 8-year-olds. So when I saw this, it was something that I really read, I could see the picture of what was going on. And one of the things that comes up time and again is, especially, with kids who are autistic, sometimes they need time to regulate and time to not have to be on, to be on. So perhaps there are times when he's by himself, when he's alone, and we can look at that and think, oh, he has low self-esteem, or he's not being social, or there's other issues going on. But that might be a time for him to regulate, for him to just be able to be in his mind, thinking about what he wants to think about. And when you're in school, there's not a lot of time for that. And so that might look like them sitting alone at lunch, them sitting alone at recess. Anytime there's time for socialization, that they might just kind of pull off and sit by themselves. They might choose to read, and it might look like, they have low self-esteem. But one of the questions that I have for this person is what are the indicators of them having low self-esteem? Because that can be our interpretation as a parent of, they're not out with their peers. They're not like running around playing with people. But again, that might be them needing to self-regulate or them just wanting to just be in their heads. And if there are things, if there are indicators of low self-esteem, my question then would be, what are their interests? And what do they love to do? What drives them? What lights them up? What makes them what drives you crazy about them talking about 24/7? So thinking about that so that you can kind of support that, because that's an indicator of, that's something that they feel really good and positive about. And I've said this in other things, but 7 to 10 can be a window shade age where they start becoming aware of their differences from their peers. And so sometimes it might be, lowest self-esteem might come from, how I do something looks very different from how my neighbor does something. And checking in with that and seeing, are they comparing themselves, if there is that aspect, are they comparing their writing, their handwriting? Are they comparing what they're doing? If they're super smart, they might be annoyed with the person next to them. It can look so many different ways, but checking in with what's going on, if they do have challenges with their peers, think about, are there people who are older? Are there people who are younger that they actually connect with? And that can look like, my son has 70-year-old friends, even though he's 21. But he's also had, he also is in a social group with 15-year-olds. And so opening up to social groups or, social peers looking very different from what we might think of. So,
yeah, that's great. So many interesting things that you shared. And I also love this idea of the window shade age. I hadn't thought of it that way, but that makes so much sense, this time of awareness or starting to understand kind of how we maybe look different or perform differently or show up in spaces differently than some of our peers. And I also love what you said about that he might just need time to be in his own mind. I love that. And it's so true. And I think it really is about how we're interpreting things. And so I love that you touched upon that. That was one of the first things that came up for me too, is how important it is to tease out our own things with what's really going on with the child. And, I always talk about this idea of fluency. Part of that is being fluent in our kids so that we can start to really understand what's going on with them. And part of it is that we want to believe them, right? Sometimes our kids are telling us exactly how they're feeling, and we might interpret it in a way that prioritizes our understanding of something. And we're not really listening to exactly what our kid is telling us. So that's why really doing the work to become fluent in how does our child express distress? How do they express anxiety? How do they express loneliness? Really gathering evidence and getting curious so we can be more attuned to what is happening in that moment and tease it out from our own worries and fears. I mean, nobody wants to think of their child sitting isolated in the lunchroom, right? And being ostracized or not included if that child wants to be included. So it can really bring up a lot of fear and anxiety for us as parents. And then a couple other things. One is to really start to pay attention and to look for cues that your child might be suffering. So if you're noticing more negative self-talk, if you're noticing your child apologizing more when there's nothing to apologize, if you're noticing a change in behavior, if you're noticing your child is withdrawing more from things that he, she, or they really have enjoyed in the past, then those to me would be signs okay, there's something else going on. And that does tie in with that fluency. The other thing I wanted to share, it's so interesting. I just kicked off my fall podcast season this morning. I had my first interview of the fall, and I interviewed this Australian developmental pediatrician named Dr. Billy Garvey. he wrote this book called 10 Things I Wish You Knew About Your Child's Mental Health. And he has a chapter on self-esteem. And so when I read this question, I was like, oh, this is so interesting, because we just talked about how to proactively support our child in having a healthy self-esteem. And what he talked about was the goal isn't high self-esteem. The goal is a stable self-esteem, right? So self-esteem can be and is often influenced by external rewards or feedback or validation. And so we don't want our kids to have low self-esteem, obviously, but we also don't want them to have high self-esteem that's like based on because they did really well at this sport or this activity or something like that. So we want them to have a stable self-esteem. And, I asked him, I said, how do we do that? How do we help our kids have stable self-esteem? And the two things he shared were how important it is that we support effort as opposed to, the outcome. We want to support and bring attention to the effort that they put in. And we don't want them to feel that their value is tied to achievements. And then the other thing is to make sure that our kids do feel valued. So you talked about like having them engage in things that they really enjoy and that they feel good about. And there's so many ways that we can always be sending the message to our kids that they are appreciated, that they're seen, that they're helpful, that they can contribute to our family. So those little things, it might not be this huge self-esteem win, but just always daily reinforcing the message that you have value because of who you are. You just have value by being a part of our family and by being the awesome human that you are. And that's the way that we can kind of continue to I was like, you can't see me, but I'm doing this hand motion where I'm putting little self-esteem deposits in the bank. So those are the things that came up for me too. And I think whether or not your child is suffering from low self-esteem or not, we can always be working towards our kids having a stable self-esteem by doing these things, by noticing and appreciating their effort, and by always reminding them that they have value just as who they are.
Well, and it's like, as a teacher, it's like the catch you being good. And as a parent, catch you doing something. And I actually experienced that the other day. I walked into my son's bedroom and he had made his bed and it looked amazing. And I was like, oh my gosh. I said, did the bedroom fairy come and clean your room? And he said, no, I did. And I said, it looks amazing. And I didn't tell him to do it. And then the next morning I reminded him, I said, oh my gosh, that was it just felt so good to walk into your room. Like, how did it feel when you went to bed that night? And, just those little reminders can make a big difference. So.
Yes, I love that. And as someone who really values a well-made bed, I so appreciate that story. Thank you for sharing that. #goals. Is there anything before we wrap up that you want to add for this parent? Any kind of last words of comfort or wisdom?
Yeah, I think just don't beat yourself up. Don't feel like you're missing something, just kind of zoom out and really just take in the big picture of what's going on. Trust in what you know about your child. Like if they're at home and if they like to be by themselves for a while, or trust if you see a difference, and just trust in yourself as the parent. And then if you start seeing something where it is more low self-esteem, know that they're 8 and you can employ different things and different people to support them. So it's not like it's too late. So don't put that pressure on yourself.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that, because as you were just adding that point, I also really felt this kind of anxiety that this parent might be experiencing. Again, this concern that their child is not thriving and is feeling lonely and is, we can kind of extrapolate that out. What does it mean? So just that invitation that if you notice the person who asked this question or anybody who's listening who relates to this, if you notice that there's kind of a dread, anxiety, stress, worry kind of feeling in your body when you think about it, that makes you kind of want to hurry up and fix it. Like, this urgency that we've got to address this, just notice that and be like, okay, this is bringing up some stuff for me. And that is a time to just remind yourself there's no emergency here. Yeah. Just slow it down. Yeah. So I appreciate that. And so I just, first of all, I want to thank you, Margaret, for joining me to answer this question today. I want to thank the listener for sending that in. And any last words before we wrap this baby up?
No, just thank you. And again, thank the listener, because it's a great question. And
it is.
They're not alone.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. All right. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next time. You've been listening to the Tilt Parenting Podcast. To learn more about the resources mentioned in this Parent Lean-In episode, go to the extensive show notes page on tiltparenting.com. To submit a question for a future episode, just go to tiltparenting.com/lean-in. That's tiltparenting.com/LEANIN. If you're looking for personal support from me and connection with the phenomenal community of parents raising neurodivergent kids, join us in the recently rebooted Differently Wired Club. The new Differently Wired Club can help you cultivate the positive shifts you're hoping for. Go to tiltparenting.com/club to learn more. The Tilt Parenting Podcast is hosted by me, Debbie Reber, author of Differently Wired and the founder of Tilt Parenting. To support this show, please join my Patreon campaign, where you can set up a small monthly contribution. Just go to patreon.com/tiltparenting to learn more. If you want to follow Tilt on social media, go to @tiltparenting on Instagram and Facebook. Lastly, please take a minute to leave a 5-star rating or review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. That helps this show stay visible so others can find it more easily. And that's all for this week. Stay safe, stay well, and take good care. And for more information about any of the parenting resources Tilt offers, visit tiltparenting.com.
Are you a parent in need of a laugh and a little escape? Look no further. Parenting is a Joke is the podcast you've been waiting for. Hey, I'm Ophira Eisenberg. I'm a stand-up comic and parent. And each week I chat with one of my top comedian pals who, just like you, are juggling careers, busy lives and schedules, and raising a family. You can expect candid stories, hilarious mishaps that happen on stage and at home, and just a lot of laughs. There's no expert advice here. Well, actually, sometimes a good idea does sneak its way in, but mostly just pure, relatable fun to remind you that we're all in this parenting adventure together. New episodes of Parenting is a Joke drop every Tuesday, so tune in, get ready to laugh, unwind, and maybe even feel a little bit better about your own parenting. Because sometimes that's exactly what your therapist, pediatrician, and bartender ordered. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast platform.